The forest was never truly silent, but that morning it felt as though something unseen had stolen every sound. Officer Daniel Ward had patrolled these woods for years with his trusted K9, Shadow, but the uneasy stillness raised goosebumps across his skin. What began as a routine walk through familiar paths quickly shifted into something far darker. The trees towered above them like watchful giants, their branches swaying in a breeze Daniel couldn't feel. Shadow stopped abruptly, muscles tightening, ears pointing sharply ahead. His growl rumbled low, like a warning from deep within his chest. Daniel followed his gaze and spotted a massive oak that seemed to breathe uneasily, its bark bulging with an unnatural swelling. Black liquid glistened as it seeped through cracks, dripping down the trunk like thick, bleeding wounds. At first glance, Daniel thought it was decay, but Shadow's wild barking told him there was more to it. Every instinct screamed that the truth hidden inside that tree would shatter him. Before we continue, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more stories like this one. And I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Comment your country name below. It always amazes me how far our stories reach. The path had never looked so unfamiliar, even though Daniel had walked it countless times. Each step crunched softly on dried leaves, yet the sound seemed swallowed by the oppressive quiet. His uniform clung to him uncomfortably, the air heavy with tension. Shadow trotted ahead, every sense alert, his nose close to the ground, sniffing furiously. The dog's usual calm demeanor was replaced by jittery energy. His hackles bristled as though he were standing before an unseen threat. Daniel's fingers brushed the hilt of his knife as his eyes darted around, but no movement stirred in the dense woods. It was only when Shadow stiffened completely, his body rigid and his growl turning into a sharp bark, that Daniel realized something was waiting for them. The officer's pulse quickened. He knew his partner's instincts never failed him. If Shadow refused to go further without warning, then whatever lay ahead wasn't just strange, it was dangerous. Shadow lunged toward the ancient oak, his claws tearing at the earth as he barked louder, his voice echoing in frantic waves. Daniel tightened his grip on the leash, straining to hold him back, but the dog refused to retreat. This wasn't mere agitation. It was desperation, a furious plea for Daniel to pay attention. The officer whispered to calm him, though his own voice betrayed his unease. He approached the tree slowly, every sense heightened. The oak's surface was gnarled and rough, except for the grotesque bulge protruding outward, swollen as though the tree itself was sick. Daniel crouched, inspecting it closely, and his stomach twisted. Dark sap bled from its fissures, thick and sticky, sliding down the bark in unnatural streams. Under the muted sunlight, the liquid almost resembled blood, too dark and too heavy for tree resin. He drew back, a chill creeping up his spine. Shadow's growl deepened, the kind of growl that warned of imminent danger. Daniel swallowed hard, steadying his breath as his knife felt heavier at his side. Shadow barked furiously now, his paws clawing at the dirt as though urging him to act. The officer raised the blade, pressing it against the bulging bark. The texture shocked him. It wasn't coarse like wood, but oddly soft, pliant beneath the steel. His grip tightened as unease prickled down his arms. For a fleeting moment he considered pulling away, but the intensity in Shadow's eyes forced him forward. With a swift motion he sliced through. The sound that followed was grotesque, a wet, tearing rip that echoed unnaturally in the silent forest. Black fluid poured out in thick streams, cascading down the trunk and staining the roots below. Daniel stumbled backward, his eyes widening in disbelief. Trees didn't bleed, not like this. The realization hit him like a wave. Something was trapped inside. Shadow barked louder, lunging closer as though trying to tear into the opening himself. Daniel's heart pounded as he steadied trembling hands, widening the cut despite the horror. His blade scraped against something hard, producing a metallic clang that didn't belong inside any tree. He froze, staring into the oozing cavity as Shadow's bark grew frantic, claws tearing at the ground. Daniel pushed forward, carving away more of the bark until a metallic casing emerged from the swelling. Old and weathered, its surface shimmered faintly beneath layers of sticky resin. Daniel muttered under his breath, his voice breaking with disbelief. Numbers and faint engravings appeared on its corroded surface, symbols that looked military. His chest tightened as he realized this wasn't random junk, it was deliberate. He pulled with both hands, wrenching the casing free with a sickening squelch. It was heavier than it looked, coated in sap that clung like tar. He wiped it against his sleeve, revealing faded markings that made his blood run cold. Evidence, buried in the heart of a tree. The casing cracked with a faint snap, releasing a foul stench that rolled through the clearing. Daniel gagged as bile rose in his throat, but forced himself to peer inside. His stomach churned. Within the resin-coated metal were scraps of fabric, frayed and discolored, clinging to brittle strands of hair. The smell of decay pressed against his lungs, suffocating. His hand trembled as he peeled away more resin, the truth revealing itself piece by piece. These weren't just scraps. These were human remains. His chest seized as the reality struck him. Someone had entombed a person here, buried them inside this tree, as though hiding them from the world. The figure wasn't just anyone. Faded insignia stitched into the uniform scraps revealed it. A soldier, long forgotten, never returned home. Daniel staggered back, nearly dropping the casing, while Shadow growled low, positioning himself protectively between his handler and the tree. Word spread quickly once Daniel called it in. By the afternoon, fellow officers, townspeople, and even reporters gathered at the clearing, their voices hushed under the weight of what they saw. The remains were carefully lifted from the makeshift coffin, draped reverently in a flag. Silence blanketed the crowd as history, long buried, finally surfaced. Daniel stood with Shadow by his side, his uniform stained with sap and dirt, his expression heavy. He spoke softly, his words carrying across the clearing. This man was hidden away, forgotten where no one would find him. But Shadow knew. He led us here, and now this soldier can be honored as he deserves. A ripple of emotion moved through the crowd, tears glistening in more than a few eyes. Shadow wagged his tail slowly, his gaze fixed on his partner with quiet loyalty. For the first time, the forest didn't feel oppressive. It felt mournful, like it had carried this secret for too long. That evening, the town square glowed with candlelight. A memorial service honored the fallen soldier, his name finally spoken aloud after decades of silence. Families bowed their heads, flames flickering against their faces, the atmosphere thick with grief and gratitude. Daniel stood quietly, Shadow pressed against his leg, as he reflected on the events that had unfolded. This wasn't just about uncovering a mystery. It was about restoring dignity to someone denied it. The truth hadn't been revealed by accident. It had taken loyalty, courage, and a bond stronger than fear to bring it to light. As the crowd sang softly and candles swayed in the night breeze, Daniel felt the weight of the forest lift. Shadow looked up at him, eyes bright, as if he understood the gravity of what they had done. And in that moment, Daniel realized some truths aren't found by chance. They're unearthed by love, persistence, and a partner who refuses to let the past stay buried.